Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Kraus. I'm the Director of Sustainable Events and Analytics with the Green Sports Alliance. And I'll pass it to you, Joel, for a quick intro.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all, and thanks for having me here. My name is Joel Good. I'm a Principal and Sustainability Practice Area Leader at RWDI, which is a climate and performance engineering company, where I do a lot of work on decarbonization and resiliency around climate change.
Hi there, Caroline Traub. I'm a Principal and Director of Zero Plus Planning at McKinstry. McKinstry is a national engineering, construction, and energy services company dedicated to innovating climate harm out of the built environment. I lead a team of engineers focused on analyzing the costs and benefits of decarbonization in new construction, existing buildings, and eco-district projects.
Good morning, everybody. I am Jason Clark, Managing Director for Built Environment and Energy Services at 3R Sustainability. We are an ESG, built environment, and assurance services consulting firm. We work on a variety of industries nationwide. My background is in energy and especially performance in buildings and decarbonization.
Morning, everybody. I'm Dina Champa. I'm the Energy, Water, and Waste Administrator at Craft Sports and Entertainment. So I work at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, home of the New England Patriots and the Revolution, helping advance the sustainability programs there.
Awesome. I have the honor of being the moderator on this panel and being with these incredible experts. While I start, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the playbook. This is the one chance you have to have a sanctioned opportunity to ignore me. If you could pull up the QR code, the slide, you can take your phone out, you can scan the QR code, you can download the playbook. It is now live as of this morning. It's also in the announcements, so you can check it there. This playbook we've been working on for about 8 months now. It comes out of the playbook we did last year, Building for the Next Generation, which was on the built environment. And it follows these 5 fundamentals, which is measure and benchmark, reduce emissions through energy efficiency, transition to fully electric venues, switch to renewable energy, and keep the venue running with energy resilience. And without further ado, I want to get into the content. And I will say, after this, we have a breakout session. I think it's the second round of breakouts where we'll go even further. But Joel, I would like to start with you. What is decarbonization, specific to energy as we're talking about this playbook, and the topic of electrification? Within the context that every venue is different, how do we understand how each venue decarbonizes?
Right. Well, as we've learned over the last couple of days, and I think yesterday in the keynote made it quite clear that we have a climate crisis on our hands. And it's all of our responsibility, and it's probably the reason we're all here, to make an impact on that. So decarbonization of our venues and events is just that. It's reducing our carbon footprint that we have through our operations and through the decisions we make every day in those facilities. And so the sports industry is particularly challenging because each of these venues, each of your events are unique. And so coming up with a off-the-shelf strategy for everyone is difficult. I work on buildings all over the world, and one commercial building versus another is a lot easier to handle than one event versus a stadium. And so really what we talk about here in the playbook is how to get started and do a carbon baseline of your operations. That really helps pull back the veil in where carbon is being consumed on your site. So really understanding that is important. It's always exciting to do that. It's always surprising to do that too, where you unveil. I mean, if you have an ice rink, if you have, all of us have fans coming to the venues, what's the impact of their travel? Understanding and quantifying that is really, really important, so you can then make a plan to reducing those emissions. I think going through that process is also really revealing in that it allows us to get better at it year after year. So, setting up metering programs so that we understand where energy is being used on our sites, setting up understanding processes of how to harvest that data from our HR departments, from our travel secretaries, et cetera. So that process is something that kind of gets improved over time. But it's really important that there are tools out there, and it's really important to report that information back and to feed it back into your systems as far as how to create decarbonization, which is what the rest of the panel is going to talk about a little bit more. But basically, that's what our fundamental one is about.
Thank you. Caroline, I'm going to move to you. There are a lot of meaningful strategies to drive this impact. I think the question is, where do we begin?
Yeah, so a great place to start is just to simply understand the major building systems and assets that are in the facility, their operating condition, and when they're going to reach end of life. Then you can start to plan for replacement systems and technologies that not only reduce energy and carbon, but importantly also solve other challenges facing your facility around maintenance, reliability, or operability. It's just too challenging to think about energy reduction when equipment is failing and you're operating in this reactionary state. So getting ahead of these situations and creating that year-over-year plan to align energy and carbon reduction with needed equipment replacement, it's just really critical for cost-effective decarbonization.
Caroline, on the thread of equipment replacement, can you tell us about electrification and how that plays a role?
Yeah, so I'll touch on 3 things to think about around the technical side of solutioning, all of which are discussed more in the playbook. So first, of course, is just prioritizing energy efficiency and load reduction. So LED lighting, high-efficiency fans, HVAC controls, all of those tried and true strategies that reduce electrical load. Second is getting a really clear picture of your electrical system and the opportunities and constraints that you're going to need to work within. So starting to ask questions like, what is the peak demand of the facility relative to the electrical service? Or in other words, what's the headroom we have to add more load? Do you have the metering in place to even start to answer that question? And then, of course, partnering with your local utility provider to understand if they might have constraints if you do need a service upgrade. Third is around ideation and what solutions are possible for electric HVAC, domestic hot water, and cooking systems. So air-to-water heat pumps or air source heat pumps with electric or fossil fuel backup are becoming a bit of the default, but it's also worthwhile to explore other heat sources and sinks that might be really unique to your specific site or facility location. So is there a shallow aquifer available for open loop ground source, or a nearby data center where you could capture waste heat, or a sewer available for heat recovery? These are some of those bigger ideas that in the right application can be integrated into your electrification plans. So load reduction, electrical capacity, technology exploration, those are just a few of the things to think about as you're driving the development of an electrification strategy.
So what comes to mind is that we know how to do these. We have some of the technologies. Jason, why is this not happening everywhere?
Well, it's a great question, and I think the key word in that question is everywhere. Why isn't it happening everywhere? Which means that it is happening in some places, and there's some great case studies in this playbook. We're going to hear a little bit in a few minutes about where it is happening. But I think, the path to decarbonization from a technical perspective is pretty well understood, and there's a great graphic on page 23 whenever you do look at this playbook. But I'm going to reframe it into a business question. It requires a plan that takes into account all of the operating conditions in each of the venues. As Joel said, each of these venues is unique, and looking at it in that way and going from that reactive to a proactive perspective, like Caroline said, in terms of looking at end-of-life replacement. There are things that are coming down the pike toward all of us that we can't avoid. And this is, to remain competitive, we have to address those things, whether they're building performance standards that are going to come down and say, okay, we're going to be required to meet a certain threshold in order to avoid fines or avoid other regulatory burdens. Ultimately, I think what you need to do is work out the business case for the plan. And that's going to involve, obviously, financial, mitigating risks, and looking at a time horizon that isn't just this quarter or this season, but going into the next 5, 10, 20 years. And again, going back to decarbonization is here, it's going to happen. We have to get all the right stakeholders at the table and make that plan as if it's part of your core business plan and make it part of your operations.
Awesome, thank you, Jason. Dina, you're in it. You walk the halls of Gillette Stadium every day. You guys are on a decarbonization journey. My question is, what advice would you give to those just starting their decarbonization journey?
Definitely. Thanks, Michael. My first piece of advice would be to really understand where you start, because from there you can create a baseline and a roadmap going forward. This ties really well into fundamental one of measuring and benchmarking, and includes understanding that a venue or a stadium is more than just the physical building itself, but it's really a living, breathing thing that needs to be maintained and updated over time. Knowing how a particular building operates is crucial. This includes using devices to track consumption and energy usage, and understanding the building automation system, including the lighting schedule, when areas are being conditioned, and when different equipment is being turned on and off in the different spaces. Also, when you have a sense of the operations that are unique to your venue in particular, including the different types of events and size of events that are hosted there, you can create predictive analysis of expected energy demand, and tracking data in real time and having a sense of demand is crucial if you want to enroll in programs like demand response. And then shifting into fundamental 2, after you can benchmark and understand how the building functions, you can tackle that low-hanging fruit and make sure it doesn't grow back by cutting energy use in small ways over time. For example, at Gillette Stadium, we utilized an energy management platform to see data for our energy, our water, our gas in real time. When we addressed some of the low-hanging energy efficiency measures, such as installing high-efficiency kitchen hoods, we were able to see that impact in the present, in real time. With these smaller projects being successful, the team was able to then go back to the leadership and show them these positive results. We were able to build momentum to install bigger projects such as cogeneration and fuel cells, which we installed in 2019. And overall, everything we do, all the projects really create circularity and build on top of one another.
Awesome, thank you, Dina. Great case study about Gillette Stadium in the playbook. You can find it there. There's several other case studies that really bring it to life. Dina, I'm going to go back to you. I'm going to stay there and we'll maybe work our way back. We've got maybe 60 seconds each. Tell us, what do you want them to leave with? What's the most important piece of the playbook and the decarbonization journey?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to fundamental 1 there of measuring and benchmarking and understand really the baseline of where you start. But it's also important to understand the uniqueness of your venue. No 2 venues are the same, so 2 different venues might be looking at the same project or initiative, but it could have a different impact in 2 different venues because all of them are very different in their own way.
Yeah, I would say a key takeaway is back to that business opportunity. A successful decarbonization plan is going to be financially sustainable. It's going to manage risks. It's going to build resilience. And this new playbook is an excellent place for decision makers to start to make those decisions. And again, looking at a time horizon that isn't just this season or the next season, looking out over the course of the next 10 plus years to realize what the total opportunity is.
Yeah, I think building on that, just as the adage goes, failing to plan means planning to fail. And decarbonization is a really long-term journey that necessitates a long-term plan. So understanding existing performance, current infrastructure and constraints, creating that flexible plan, and then most importantly, working towards implementation.
Yeah, I think I'll also echo some of those. The the hurdle to get started. You know, just get going on understanding your baseline, I think is a really big hurdle. It doesn't have to be a complete baseline to start. We're always, you know, incrementally improving those from year to year for different facilities. So get started, understand what your footprint consists of. That way you can make plans, make targets, and set out, you know, long-term strategies that fit into your capital planning. So definitely get started. You'll find that there's a lot of easy kind of low-hanging fruit, like Dina was saying, right off the bat, that are easy wins. So that's a nice kind of carrot there to keep it moving. And then the second one that I would say is that is to share the information too. And so at the top we talked, or I guess all of us probably touched on the fact that each space and an event is unique. But what we find when we drill down into these common issues, that they are common. And so sharing our stories and sharing our experiences, and like Michael said, there's a bunch of case studies in here that do just that. But you know, when you have a success, publish it. When you have a strategy, talk about it and explain it so that others can emulate it too.
Thank you guys so much. And I just want to reiterate, this is live. Use it. We put out a playbook or two a year as a resource for you. These are free. These are available to anyone. You can share the links. They're on our website. And I want to just give a couple quick shout outs. The playbooks are quintessential GSA, in my opinion. They're one of the most collaborative things we do. We get a lot of people coming together to share knowledge. So I want to give a shout out to 3R, Aptum, Blue Strike Environmental, CES Power, Honeywell, Caramita Inc., McKinstry, Okapi, Populous, RWDI, Tata Consultancy Services, and Viridis Initiative for all the help you did. And of course, those are our Play to Zero and sports greening movement partners, and then to our corporate members who helped as well, Jindy, Cherry Street Energy, and Danish, however you pronounce it, never know, who all helped out. Incredible effort. So you can go download the playbook now. And thank you guys so much for joining us. We have a breakout session. Like I said, we'll go a little deeper. It's on the second breakouts. And that's all we got. Thank you guys.